Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies? I'm out of here. I like running better. Welcome back, YouTube viewers, to another video. Alright, so if there's one thing we Sonic fans do a lot, and I guess a lot of other fandoms do as well, is we like to talk about the voice actors, you know. I've done it myself, but today instead of talking about the current Sonic voice cast, because I've already done that several times, I thought something that I've seen a few other people cover, but I thought I'd give my own 2 cents on that, which is, what voices would I pick for the Archie character? Because there are a ton of characters in Archie. So many that I'm going to make a part 2, even if this doesn't do well. But don't worry, most of the characters you probably care about are going to be on this list. Okay, so I'm going to be picking actual voice actors. I'm not going to be able to play audio clips because I can't edit. But also, yeah, I'm just going to share which voice actors I think would be fitting for these characters. And yes, a few of the Sad AM characters will be here, so you'll say, but don't they already have voices? Yes, but I only picked the ones I don't think had at the definitive voices in Sad AM. I'll just say this now. Antoine's not going to be on this list because I think Rob Paulson was pretty much perfect casting, and he's Rob Paulson. Okay, so without further ado, let's do it to it and dive on in. First casting is one I've seen before, Roger Craig Smith as Scourge. I've made it no secret that he's my favorite Sonic voice, but even people, and I know he's a pretty controversial figure, but even people who don't like Roger Craig Smith's Sonic voice can agree he'd make a really good Scourge. Like, it just comes back to seeing clips of that episode of Sonic Boom where Sonic gets this ancient mech suit and starts turning him into a parody of Bully Maguire. Like that, because it's basically just Sonic's voice, but you know, try hard, edgy, I guess would be the best way to put it. That is basically how he describes Scourge. He has a lot of similarities to Sonic, but his worst qualities are exaggerated. And he tries to sound all cool and tough. All hail the king, baby. That's how Scourge talks. Like this panel, you know, he says, evil Sonic, anti-Sonic, oh, old news. But the new hotness is a real Scourge. Like, I think that fit really well. I don't know about you. I think Roger would make Craig Smith be a great Scourge. These are the voices I imagine in my head. Next is the one picture from the thumbnail. Mark Hamill as Dr. Definitivus. I've heard some people say Clancy Brown do a good job with the voice. I think I even heard someone say Jeremy Irons, you know, Scar from The Lion King. I don't think either of those voices work. I get why people would say that, but I don't think they quite work. Mark Hamill's voice, on the other hand, you know, his classic villain voice you hear as Firelord Ozai in Avatar The Last Airbender, or one of the 2 people who watched Hero Factory, or, you know, all his guest roles like on Gravity Falls, a regular show. He uses this kind of voice. I don't really know how to do it without hurting my throat, but you probably know what I'm talking about. It has that evil, sinister flair, but still sounds kind of dramatic. I don't know, I mean, Firelord Ozai's entire goal at the end of Avatar The Last Airbender is to just burn the world so he can have a new world and take it over or whatever. That's pretty similar to Dr. Definitivus. Of course, many of the details are very, very different, but I don't know, I think that's pretty fitting. Not just because of the character's Mark Hamill's voice, but yeah, I think the voice fits Definitivus pretty well. So Sally, the first Sad AM character is going to be here. Because, you know, to me, the Sad AM characters are basically just Archie characters. So, I'm proposing that Carrie Walgren voice is the voice I imagine for Sally. Now, some people might ask, okay, why do you not like her Sad AM voice? I do like her Sad AM. I like the performance in Sad AM, not so much the voice. Cal Susie did a great job acting for the character, but the actual voice, like, it's not. It apparently was just her real voice, so it's pretty infectious voice, but a little too much, it might say. Like, she sounded much older than Sonic, and considering how Sonic was voiced by Jaleel White at the time, I don't think that quite blended well. I think listening to Kari Walgren's voice, who for so long I thought it was Carrie Walgren until she was on Tuned In with Jim Cummings. Apparently her real name is pronounced Kari, but whatever. So, listen to her, basically just her real voice. If you seen Ben 10, she voiced Charmcaster there, and yes, Charmcaster's a pretty different character from Sally, but the voice itself, which Kari Walgren has also used in some other shows, like she was Jane Foster in Avengers vs. Mightiest Heroes, that was all same voice. It sounds similar to Katsushi, but it sounds younger, and I just think it's a really fitting voice for the character. You know, the youthful but mature, like sort of uncomfortable sometimes, but also like a tough leader sort of character. You know, I think she'd be pretty good at doing all the different emotions of Sally. What was the last thing I was gonna add? Oh yeah, she also voiced the Enchantress in Avengers vs. Mightiest Heroes, so pretty prolific voice actress. Okay, for Bunny, I'd say Lenore Zan. So this is where I have to talk about the fact that I'm not trying to pitch like some kind of Archie show where I'd want these voice actors because okay, Lenore Zan is a Canadian voice actor, so well, unless the show was animated in Canada, she could still be in it. But also, it's just that she's old. Like I'm because these are the voices I imagine in my head, not what I say the character should come back and have these voices. Because she's in her 60s. If you've seen X-Men 97, you'd know that her voice has not aged well. I'm just talking about how she voiced Rogue in X-Men the Animated Series back in the 90s because, let's be honest, Bunny and Rogue are the exact same character. Same clothes, southern accent, similar personality, fall in love with a guy with a French accent. Like are you and the whole Rogue can't touch anyone and Bunny is a cyborg. Come on, I'm sure I'm not the first person to have noticed that. I mean, I even found this video from something like 10 years ago. It's an animation of Rogue voice clips with Bunny. Yeah, I don't really know what else I'm supposed to add other than Lenore Zan voiced Rogue, and she's the exact same character as Bunny, except Rogue is a human, Bunny's an animal, Mobian. You get the picture. Josh Keaton as Shard. This is so perfect, and I'm surprised I have never heard anyone say this before. The only Shard fan cast I can ever remember seeing was Max Middleman, who's really popular as a Sonic fan cast. I don't really know who Max Middleman is. He sounds like he'd make a decent Sonic, decent Shard, but I think Josh Keaton would be spectacular. I I think I subconsciously called him that spectacular because, you know, he's the voice of the spectacular Spider-Man. And yeah, it's gonna be perfect for Shard. He's got the sort of Sonic energy, you know, the guy who taunts his, because this is Archie. Archie Sonic especially loves to taunt his villains and make fun of them, and he's really snarky, and but then he also has some pretty dramatic scenes too. I just think of scenes like where Doc Ock says to Spider-Man, "I found your weakness. You can't bear to see people hurt," and Spider-Man says, "I can make an exception." Kind of reminds me of the whole Shard versus Metal Sonic fight, where Shard initially is super cheeky, but he has those little bits of drama until he just gets to the end where he's just fully engaged in this fight, taking this seriously. Yeah, because Sonic and Spider-Man are similar characters, and while Shard is not the same as Sonic, he is similar. And yeah, I just think the voice fits Shard really well. I told this cast to my friend once, and he said, "Yeah, that fits really well." Nicole, oh, Grey Delisle, she is super prolific. You know, Zula in Avatar: The Last Airbender, a ton of. She was in Spectacular Spider-Man, just like Josh Keaton. She was Betty Brant. A lot of other shows like Transformers, small roles in other shows like Uncle Grandpa, regular show. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's just her real voice. Like she used it as Betty Brant from like that's the voice I remember hearing it as is Spectacular Spider-Man. I think that fits Nicole really well. Now, some people might say, well, they'd rather have Nicole have a kind of computerized filter voice like she did in Sad AM, except I'm not really a fan of that. I mean, I guess it works when Nicole is just a handheld device for most of the comic, but once she forms her holographic body, she's supposed to be her own character. I don't think the robot tone quite fits. Yeah, I just imagine her sounding just like how Grey Delisle sounds. Kind of like how I just imagine Sally sounding like how Kari Walgren already sounds. I don't know. Rotor, Bill Fagerbaki. So you might be asking, wait, you want Rotor to sound like Patrick from SpongeBob? No, sort of, because yes, that is Bill Fagerbaki's most iconic role. Everyone knows him as that. but he was also Bulkhead in Transformers Animated. That character is basically just Rotor. The voice of Bulkhead is similar to Patrick, but it's not the same, and I think would capture Rotor really well. So he's the big, kind of dumb guy, or maybe not dumb, but Bulkhead's kind of dumb, but Rotor's this big guy, but he's also a technical genius, but he also is the least interesting of the main cast. So that's what Bulkhead's a much better character than Rotor might add, but Bulkhead is the big guy of the Autobots in Animated. But he's kind of dumb, and nobody really takes him super seriously. But as it turns out, at the end of Season 2, he is actually a technical genius when it comes to space bridges. And I think that a big voice, just kind of fits Rotor. Maybe not necessarily... The voice doesn't necessarily sound dumb, so much as it sounds, kind of, like he's not from the big city, Because, Rotor isn't even from Mobotropolis. He's from the Arctic. But he also sound kind of like a lovable oaf sort of guy, but he's not completely stupid. Yeah. Julie Sumali Montano, the voice of Archie in Transformers Prime, who I actually got to meet at TFCon this year. I actually asked Jeff Bennett to do a Vector Archie line. He had no idea what that even was. I didn't tell him what it was from. I just told him it was from a comic. I really wish I asked her to do a Julie Sue line. Maybe if I ever see her at another convention. But okay, so Archie and Transformers Prime and Julie Sue are very similar characters. They're tough kind of soldiers with some kind of tragic backstory. And they kind of have a hard time interacting with other people until they meet someone who they open up to, yada yada. It makes it the difference is that Archie becomes friends with a human and Julie Sue falls in love with Knuckles. But, they are similar characters. They have similar tones. I would just always imagine this is the kind of voice. Yeah, I don't really have much more to add to that. Oh, aside from, she's not a robot, but Julie Sue is kind of a cyborg, so I just think that's kind of funny. Tom Kenny as Snively. So, I think Charlie Adler in Sad AM was a great Snively, but I think Tom Kenny would just be a bit better, which, this is totally not a coincidence that Snively's actual voice, Charlie Adler, ended up playing Starscream in the Bayformers movies. Tom Kenny, who I am saying I think would be the perfect voice for Snively, was also Starscream in Transformers Animated. Because much like how Rogue and Bunny are basically the same character, Starscream and Snively are the same character. Treacherous evil guy tries to overthrow his big boss, but is terrified of his big boss because he always threatens him, but the big boss always keeps him around for some reason. That is Snively. That is Starscream. But I think it just especially work for Snively, Tom Kenny's voice, because, he's known as SpongeBob. This short, little, lovable guy. Except, SpongeBob is a lovable guy. Snively is this short, greedy, egotistical, sniveling coward. He's, I don't even know how to describe him, without going super in detail. I just think that works, because the Starscream voice that Tom Kenny did is not that far off from SpongeBob, so it's basically just a mean version of SpongeBob, and I find that hilarious. And yeah, I just think the voice fits Snively. Dimitri, I'd say Corey Burton. Corey Burton is super prolific. He is the voice of Disneyland. Yeah. You go on Disneyland trains, it says, "Welcome to Disneyland." That is his voice, but, he's best known for being in Transformers. He was Shockwave, Brawn, Trailbreaker in G1. He was Shockwave, Ratchet, and Megatron Transformers Animated. He was a ton of characters in Ben 10 Omniverse. Malware, for instance, is one of them. And he was Cad Bane in Star Wars. But the voice I'm specifically imagining from Corey Burton is the voice used for Megatron in Transformers Animated and Malware in Ben 10 Omniverse. That's this kind of a voice, the kind of old man voice, but still sounds very sophisticated and refined. It's a hard voice to do, but, also because Megatron is a robot and Malware is a lab-created being that's still alive somehow, and Dimitri's a cyborg. Yes, the difference is that Dimitri kind of goes through a redemption arc, and Megatron and Malware are the most evil guys you could get in a cartoon, but, I think the voice is just really fitting, and yeah, he has the gray color. Dimitri's head bubble design is the gray color of Megatron, and the red of Malware. His design does genuinely remind me of both of them. That's probably why I imagine Corey Burton voicing him. Fiona Fox, I'm going to recommend Jennifer Hale, which, by the way, she does not look nearly this young anymore. She has not aged well, unfortunately. But anyway, yeah, Jennifer Hale's another really prolific voice actress. She's been like a ton of Marvel cartoons: Black Cat in the '90s, Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, the Iron Man cartoon in the '90s. Lame character, but whatever. Jean Grey in Wolverine and the X-Men and X-Men '97. And of course, Miss Marvel and Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I think she's also been in Star Wars for a bit. But anyway, so I'm just gonna recommend the voice she used for Miss Marvel because that voice does sound kind of like, well, Miss Marvel is a superhero and Fiona Fox is definitely a villain. Like, they both give off the same kind of vibe, except I guess maybe kind of the vibe she gave off as when she was voiced Black Cat. Kind of the same vibe for Fiona Fox. There aren't really that many similarities in the two characters, other than them being, well, I mean, whatever. Point is, I just think the voice is fitting. Like, maybe you guys could try to imagine it. Like, if I could use real audio voice clips for this, I would have, because I think this is one of my best fan casts. Next, David Kaye as Mammoth Mogul. Yes. I've met David Kaye something like 3 times. He does not look like that anymore. But yeah, David Kaye, to us Transformers fans, is a legend. You know, Megatron and Beast Wars and Beast Machines, the Unicron trilogy, Optimus Prime, Grimlock and Lugna and Transformers Animated, Hardshell and Transformers Prime, Disney Voices for Robots in Disguise 2015, ton of characters in Ben 10 Omniverse, Kyber, Shock Squatch, Gravitack, he's Clank and Ratchet and Clank. But I'm just gonna say his classic Megatron voice is just perfect for Mammoth Mogul. This big, powerful, imposing guy who has a huge ego and speaks in big words. And he imagines himself as being on top of everyone. After all, Mammoth Mogul for so long, he's thousands of years old. He's an immortal being bent on conquering the world and proving his superiority. And, you know, in Beast Wars, Megatron's whole plan is that he travels back in time to kill the Autobots before they awake in 1984, and he can take his rightful place as supreme ruler of the universe. Yeah, much like with some of the other, I said that with Sumali Montano, that's Julie Sue. I wish I asked David Kaye to say some Mammoth Mogul lines. He's at TFCon LA every year. He's so many conventions. I could probably just see him again sometime and ask him. Yeah. Comment down below, especially what you think of this one, because I'm really proud of this fan cast. I used to imagine Kevin Michael Richardson for a while, but I think David Kaye would be a bit better. Okay. Another one of my favorite fan casts. To be fair, I love all these fan casts. Ixis Naugus is Robin Atkin Downes would make the perfect Ixis Naugus voice. Because there's one show I've only made one video about before, but I love that show. It'd be Thundercats 2011. You can watch it on Hulu if you haven't. That show is an underrated masterpiece. And the main villain is a ancient evil wizard and Robin Atkin Downes voiced him, Mum-Ra. Yeah, Ixis Naugus is a pretty similar character. I do like Michael Bell, who I actually met and asked him about Ixis Naugus anyway. I've met him before at TFCon, he shows up a lot, but yeah, so Robin Atkin Downes is no stranger to voicing big evil wizards, so I actually told someone that, hey, he'd make a good Ixis Naugus, and he asked me, hey, who's that? And I said, look up Mum-Ra, and he said, oh yeah, that voice is pretty fitting. Big evil guy, cape, creepy, screechy voice, I always love when Sonic says, it's impossible. No one can be that naturally creepy. That fits Mum-Ra pretty well. I wish I had more to add because I really love this fan cast. I just don't. What more do you want me to say? Guy is great at playing evil wizards. Oh, and also he was Zemo in Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That's an interesting fact. Okay, that's my conclusion. I really liked making this video. It didn't require that much work because I already had a lot of these voices in my head for a while. And I just thought it was really fun to give my 2 cents on this. I'm totally going to make a part 2. There's still so many characters I haven't talked about, you know. Locke, Lienda, Knack the Weasel, because Mighty and Ray being, let's be honest, guys, they're Archie characters. Eclipse is still out there. King Acorn, Elias Acorn, boy, probably should have included him. Like, Archie Sonic has a million characters. And I guess as a final note, I have seen the leaks that apparently Sally, Bunny, Antoine, Rotor, well, I don't know. I don't think it was just Sally and Nicole, but they're gonna be in the new Sonic mobile game, Sonic Blitz. Here's to hoping they can be in Sonic Racing Cross World as an update. Look, if we can get SpongeBob and the Ninja Turtles and Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender in Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, can we please get the Freedom Fighters? I'm not asking them to be in a mainline game. I just want to see them in a racing game. So yeah, I really liked making this. Comment down below what you thought of this, because you guys probably have some of your own fan casts. That's all for now, and remember to stay way past cool.